Two. Don't you just love that sound? Very satisfying. That snap. All right, you guys, how are you? Good morning, Earthlings. Yay, Miss Amir, you're the first one. Thank you for being here. Let's see, let's pin that message. Um, don't do that. Do that. Please hit that like button. I got my sign way back here. Share, subscribe, ring your notification bell. S'il vous plaît. You guys, I'm not the only one being shadow banned. Isn't that shocking? Hey, Bex. Good morning, Jazz and Chat. Um, yeah, there's a lot of people seem to be making videos about being shadow banned, and a lot of people are putting up posts about being shadow banned. You guys have probably seen them, right? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the hearts. I don't want to bore you to death, but I do want to jump right into reading that emergency proclamation from Maui. Um, I think it's really important to read it. And I posted it yesterday. Let's see, I want my necklace to show. I posted it yesterday on my community page, but honestly, I know I wouldn't be reading it off of anybody's community page, and it just kind of reminds me of the affidavit that I read early in my channel. I think it was one of my first like 5 videos where I read the affidavit to do with Sheriff Wu in the Kylie Rodney case. Let me see. I just got a text. Let's see. Second. And I am going to be reading off my phone. I hope that that's okay. When I read that affidavit in the Kylie Rodney case about a year ago, maybe to the date, who knows, I thought that it might not be that relevant. And in my opinion, it's as relevant as it ever was. Um, it didn't get that many views, of course, because my channel was new and it was a boring article. But I just went ahead and reread it somewhere down the road, and then it got thousands of views. I'd have to check to know how many thousands, but I was so excited that a lot of people were hearing it because that was some crazy ass crap. Good morning, Pixie Knickers. And I meant to check to make sure I got your address. I didn't get a chance to. You know, there's so many things you got to do before you go on live that I was like, I can't forget. And then I forgot. Sorry. But I will check it and make sure that I got it. So Squirrels, thanks for being here as a moderator, especially. Thank you everybody for being here. Good morning, Susan. And let me do my little disclaimer. Everything I say is simply my opinion. I'll try to keep my hands off the screen, out of the screen, because I know that that makes things jump around, takes the focus to the hand. But everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of conversation. I'm always trying to open up a discussion, hoping to have an intelligent conversation, and always trying to learn something, hoping that my videos are educational for others as well. And all my videos to this date have been made for YouTube, which is an entertainment platform that shadow bans people. So that's some kind of effery, in my humble opinion. You know, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, but they're not feeding me. You guys are feeding me. And I would imagine that most of you would probably follow me to another platform. I've never gotten a penny from YouTube. I don't care if I ever get a penny from YouTube. I've spent a lot of money building up my channel, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I love it. And I'm so richly rewarded without absolute dime. So thanks, you guys. You are the reward. Excuse me. I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning for a potty break and intended on going back to sleep until I found out the name of the dude who died at Burning Man. Oh, how did he die, Shan? I said in my video yesterday, when you have a crowd that size just for a single concert, just for an evening, you're almost guaranteed to have a fatality. And Burning Man being 7 days long, I would think that they would probably have a small handful every year. That doesn't make it any less sad, that's for sure. Won't know till autopsy, but I'm betting it'll be an accident. Um, Probably a self-inflicted accident is my guess, right? Okay. It was a muddy mess. Wait till you find out where he's from. Truckee? Do you know? Is he about, oh, I don't know, 18, 19 years old? Okay, so let's get into it. Maui Sunset says, yeah, let's find out where he's from. Curious. Um, let's read this emergency proclamation, you guys. It's crazy. He's 32, not Maui. Um, Texas, Vegas. Let's see. So here's the emergency proclamation. All right. Like I said, I posted it 15 hours ago and I've read through it and try not to make it too boring. I'll try to do lots of voice inflections or something. Pennsylvania or Ohio? Susan, is that a threat? I gotta watch the way we put it out there, LOL. Otherwise, I would have gone live at 8 a.m. this morning. Exactly. So, yeah, sometimes it's safer to say things on other people's channels because then you're probably not being watched. I'm the one that's might be getting scrutinized, and then other people are just here. So, I like the guessing game. Yes, me too. It's fun, keeps it mysterious, right? Possibilities are endless. So here's the emergency proclamation relating to housing. This was July 17th, 2023, you guys. So less than, or actually right about 3 weeks before uh, the awful fires. Maui has had enough loss, just saying fatalities are always sad. And where's the list of names? Where's the list of names of the missing? Where's the list of names of the fatalities? I have a feeling that this information is being uh, heavily suppressed and there needs to be transparency 100%. If you take his name and age and Google it with an attached California, you'll find his bio, father, senior, and him. Why the blackout? Which blackout are you talking about, Mark Molina? Are you talking about Hawaii? Like, why the blackout in Hawaii? I mean, they had a blackout before the fire. They have had a blackout after the fire. So I'm just going to go ahead and read emergency proclamation. I don't want to lose track of you guys, but I'm going to have to get this read. Emergency proclamation relating to housing signed by Governor Green on July 17th, 2023, aims to streamline the development process and empower developers and stakeholders to contribute to the creation of more housing opportunities. The emergency proclamation reflects extensive input from the state and county agencies that provided details on process maps, application checklists, common areas of approval, delays, and recommended touch points for engagement. Then I'm going to go back to this. It says, please see emergency proclamation relating to housing here. But let's see. Okay, Mountain Dew blackout. No, the blacked out of info on missing Maui, right? Have you seen the video clapbacks about Oprah and Dwayne The Rock? I've seen some of them, yeah. Totally out of the okay. So I'm gonna go back to that emergency proclamation relating to housing part. It's like you tap on it and it takes you there, but I want to get through this part first. Through the governor's emergency proclamation, a streamlined process has been put in place to accelerate housing production while maintaining the highest standards of quality. For questions regarding this emergency proclamation and Build Beyond Barriers Working Group, that's BBBWG, Build Beyond Barriers Working Group. They have a lot of barriers in Hawaii. So this is building beyond the barriers. And most of those barriers are about sacred land and historical preservation. Just saying. Please contact the governor's office on housing at governorhousing@hawaii.gov. Build Beyond Barriers Working Group, BBBWG, led by the lead housing officer, is dedicated to accelerating housing development. We've already said that. Accelerating housing development. Fires destroyed the areas they want to claim, develop, make changes. The west side of Maui is where you see the sunset, you guys. That's going to be insanely valuable. Of course, the east side is where you see the sunrise, and that's also beautiful. And the entire island, I'm sure, is extremely beautiful. But like the west side of the Big Island is where Kona is, the most expensive part. Let's see. Fires delayed. Bully the poor out of their homes. And I don't know how protesters haven't burned down the elites' homes. Yikes. Yeah, there's going to be like a peaceful demonstration, I think, on September 11th. Please, no more fires. Yeah, absolutely. So, the accelerating housing development through stakeholder collaboration. Now, stakeholders are not locals, you guys. You know that. Stakeholders are developers, the people with the cash, the people with the most power. This group will not engage in policy making or regulatory changes, but will focus on streamlining housing projects. Its main tasks involve monitoring and coordinating various housing projects, assessing housing regulatory agencies' workloads, certifying projects for construction, and certifying projects for construction. These certified projects can include housing infrastructure development, key right there, and brownfield sites primarily intended for housing, with a strong emphasis on fair wages for workers throughout the project's duration. So then you have on August 11th, there was the Beyond Barriers kickoff meeting was scheduled on August 11th. I don't know if that did happen or not. If you guys want to look that up. August 29th was scheduled the Beyond Barriers meeting agenda, meeting materials, revised testimony, late testimony. Actually, I'm not going to tap on those, but that might be notes from those meetings. What is a housing emergency in Hawaii? Hawaii has the most expensive housing prices in the United States because we have failed to sufficiently build homes for our residents. Our current housing shortage has led to a crisis of increasing homelessness and migration to the mainland, which threatens our ohanas and way of life across Hawaii. So then there's the guidance for the updated processes under the emergency proclamation, the revised processes. You guys, that's going to be key. And there's like a little flow chart for that. So I don't want to read all of this. I'm just going to read some of the headlines here. Hawaii's pipeline for upcoming housing developments, project spotlights, and then going back to that one place I said I would go back to. Please see the emergency proclamation related to housing here. It's crazy. Nova and I will be modding from the couch, listening, and we'll type when need be. I know, Mark, just tying into the strange DEW coincidences that sound strangely like all the tragedies taking place around the world. Jazz, my space bar sticks sometimes. Sorry. No problem. No problemo. Let's see, replace pinned message. And here we go with this part. Um, This is from the Officer of the Governor, State of Hawaii, proclamation relating to housing. By the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the State of Hawaii, in order to provide relief for disaster damages, losses, and suffering, and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people, I, Josh Green, um, MD, Governor of the State of Hawaii, hereby determine, designate, and proclaim as follows. Whereas, pursuant to Chapter 127A Hawaii Revised Statutes, HRS, emergency powers are conferred on the governor of the state of Hawaii to respond to disasters or emergencies, to maintain the strength, resources, and economic life of the community, and to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas housing is the single biggest household expense in Hawaii, making up 38% of household spending for our local people and cementing Hawaii's place as the state with the highest cost of living. And whereas access to housing for all is essential to the security, health, well being, and prosperity of our communities. And whereas the severe shortfall of affordable housing had been recognized as early as 1935 when the Territory of Hawaii passed Act 190, Session Laws of Hawaii 1935, creating the Hawaii Authority, or I'm sorry, Hawaii Housing Authority. And whereas this shortfall has never been adequately addressed, contributing to a 1,200% increase in home prices over the last 45 years, which is double the 600% growth in income over the same period. And whereas there is a large segment of the population that earns too much to qualify for traditional affordable housing programs, yet too little to afford to buy or rent market rate housing. And whereas this gap is not being addressed by existing housing policy, rendering the need for an increase in all housing of our local people all the more visible. And whereas the gap population unable to afford housing in Hawaii includes essential workers such as healthcare, construction, educational professionals who are forced either to move away from the state or to turn down opportunities to work in Hawaii in the first place. And whereas the housing crisis is causing our state to lose talented local people to the lower cost of living on the mainland, and we price ourselves out of the market to attract skilled workers. And whereas high housing costs are leading to an increase in immigration from our state, with 20 people leaving the state every day in 2022. Wow, I did not know this. 20 people every day. I remember when there were a lot of people moving it into Seattle in the 90s. I don't remember the number, but it was maybe like 200 a day or something like that in the early 90s. Um, let's see. And whereas this population decline, maybe they all were moving from Hawaii. Seriously, you just never know. They were moving from all over the country for sure. Whereas this population decline also includes a great loss in our native Hawaiian population, more of whom, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, now live in the continental U.S. than in Hawaii for the first time in the state history. And whereas the decrease in our native Hawaiian population presents a serious danger to the preservation of traditional culture, customs, and history, and whereas Native Hawaiians represent approximately 21% of Hawaii's population. However, they represent nearly 40% of the state's homeless population. We've heard those numbers before, right, you guys? So native people that are native there have twice the rate of homelessness of people who are non-native. The poverty rate among Native Hawaiians is also significantly higher than the poverty rate for all Hawaiian residents, 12% compared to 9%, or 25% higher than the poverty rate for the entire population. That's from the Alice Report, Aloha United Way 2022. And whereas Native Hawaiians report the highest unemployment rates, lowest median household incomes, lowest homeownership rates as compared to all other Hawaiian households, American Community Survey 2019. And whereas the Department of Homelands is responsible for the management of 203,500 acres of land trusts, 9,978 homestead leases statewide, and 46,560 lease applications. However, over 29,124 applicants are on the waiting list, where many have languished for decades waiting for residential, agricultural, or pastoral leases, and many have died while so waiting. This is some sick stuff, you guys. Let me make sure I don't lose track of where you're at. The fires destroyed the areas they want. And yeah, I read that one. I read some of these. Well, that's good. You guys have not been doing a bunch of comments since I'm not able to read them. Um, Perfect. Thanks. I just didn't want to lose track of you guys. I like being on the same page. One sec. Thanks so much for joining me in this live. That is just horrible. I almost want to read that one again, but I won't because there's a lot to get through here. But I'll just read the last part of it, that many have died while so waiting. This is a few weeks before the fires, where many more died. An accelerated amount died in a very short amount of time. And as much as I'm convinced that this was orchestrated, there's some extent to which it's irrelevant. The community is in a crisis at this point in time, no matter what caused the fires. I am hesitant to say that because, of course, it's not irrelevant if that was orchestrated by authorities. That's the furthest thing from irrelevant. And I believe that there needs to be an investigation of what caused the problem and all of the series of cluster Fs that contributed massively to this epic tragedy. I think all these people need to be investigated, and starting with the police chief and the governor and the mayor. The guy who quit, the guy who was the lead in the not pressing the button for the sounding the alarm, that guy. Unbelievable. Okay. So the many have died while so waiting, whereas in recent analysis of the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's waitlist, 46% of waitlist households were cost burdened, paying more than 30% of their monthly income towards housing. That's from the Housing Authority in 2017. In addition, 40% of Native Hawaiians on the wait list reported being overcrowded. And whereas on May 5th, 2022, the 31st state legislature passed HB 2511 HD2 SD2 CD1 relating to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, which Governor David Y. IGE, I don't know how to say that name. It's the initial Y and then IGE is the last name, signed into law as Act 279 on July 11th, 2022. And whereas the purpose of Act 279 is to provide the Department of Hawaiian Homelands a multi-pronged approach to eliminate the long-standing wait list crisis. And whereas I'm just thinking one way to accommodate that desire to eliminate the long-standing wait list crisis is to eliminate the people that are on the wait list. It's sick. I hate to say it, but I believe that that could be exactly what we're looking at. Let's see. A global attack, Dana? No. Mama Smurf, Shan is the name of the man who passed significant. I know who. Okay. Whereas Act 279 appropriated a historic $600 million to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to address the needs of Native Hawaiians on the department's waiting list. That's a lot of money. And what's going on with that $600 million, you guys? That's a lot of cash. It's a lot of capital. Um, Scary, isn't it? I just caught on about a year and a half ago. I feel violated and very brainwashed. I've spent a lot of time ungaslighting myself. Yes, that's what we're here for, Dana, to ungaslight ourselves together. Shan came up with that cute little slogan. I think back to the big white balloons flying over the North America to the east. Won't know till the autopsy is complete. Okay. Whereas a 2023 Demographia report placed the median multiple, which is the median house price to median household income multiple for Honolulu at 11.8, making it the most unaffordable market in the country. And this is why there was so much of a population that lived just outside of Lahaina town, what they called the country, where the encampments were. And thank goodness I know somebody who actually lived there a long time ago, like 40 years ago or more. He lived there for 20 years in a yurt that he built. And he was a professional. So I'm imagining, having not seen photographs of this area, that these dwellings were pretty spectacular. Like, think Swiss Family Robinson and their amazing treehouse kind of stuff. I would imagine that that's what a lot of it was like. Um, just really, really cool, kind of developed, but completely natural and simple and comfortable, like a comfortable way of life. And that this was a whole community of people that supported each other. And again, this was a long time ago. So I'm sure it's only grown since then with the situation as it was. And I doubt that any of these people are being accounted for in this fire tragedy. There's been a lot of government money flowing to these areas with the unfortunate deaths or catastrophes, and yet nothing changes. There's never an answer. Well, that's because corruption, right? It's odd. 70,000 people. The one dude who dies comes from Kylie Rodney's town, if my research is right. That was what I had guessed. So do I win a prize? That is odd. That is very odd. Um, let's see. Good morning, listening. I have to run, get some stuff done today. That's really strange. Squirrels on fire. It's also odd that Washoe is doing the autopsy, not the county he died in or the county he's from. That is extremely odd, squirrels. That's sus right there. Hugely sus. Um, okay, so the most unaffordable housing market in the country. Whereas Native American, sorry, Freudian slip, whereas Native Hawaiian median household income was $10,000, $10,037 less than the median for all Hawaii households in 2019. And why is that? Leaving them with fewer financial resources to mortgage, qualify, or pay for ever increasing rents. American Community Survey. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be fleeing the area, not only because of the finances, but because of the threat, too. I mean, I mentioned a few days ago how isolated you are out there in Hawaii, which is probably why these authorities thought they could get away with this, because that's what perps do, is they isolate their victims to make them more vulnerable. Isolation is really bad. Always avoid it. Um, okay. Sorry, I just have to make sure that my necklace keeps showing, all right? I know, I'm funny like that. I'm so in love with these necklaces that I've been making, and the earrings too. I made the earrings also. I didn't make this necklace, but I'm gonna take it apart so you guys will see what I do with it. Um, I'll remake it into all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, back to the material. We are not a jewelry channel, right? We are a home decor channel. No, I'm just kidding. The lead detective on Kara's case retired from the sheriff departments, Nevada County and Placer County, and works in Washoe now. Interesting. That is where Reno is, right? It's just very, very odd, and I'm curious what his cause of death will be. Right. I'm sure not an overdose, correct? I mean, I'm being sarcastic because it seems like there's a probability or possibility of that, but I doubt that it would go on the record like that. Um, okay. Whereas living in unaffordable housing is associated with a higher risk of chronic health conditions such as elevated levels of cholesterol, respiratory infections, coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, stroke, and cancer. And whereas living in unaffordable housing is also associated with mental health challenges, including chronic stress, anxiety, and depression. And whereas um, keiki are especially adversely affected by inadequate housing, which in many cases results in an increased likelihood of child lifetime hospitalizations, cancer, diabetes, obesity, anxiety, depression, and antisocial behaviors. And whereas the increasing cost of housing places our communities at greater risk of poverty, with 1/4 of our residents at risk of becoming homeless. And whereas Kapuna must often pay rapidly increasing rental or mortgage payments out of fixed incomes, contributing to approximately 22,000 living in poverty compared against only 8,135 affordable rental units reserved for the elderly. So frightening. And whereas affordable housing is associated with better health, childhood development, and educational achievement by freeing up more of a family's budget for more nutritious food, access to medical care, and stability where family members can thrive. And whereas at some point I'm going to have to stop reading before it's done because it's 25 pages and we're on page 3. So I'll get to a good stopping point. Let's see. Um, Whereas the responsibility for the development of infrastructure to support housing, which historically had fallen on government, has in recent decades been placed on developers. On developers? They're not trustworthy in my experience. Um, Anyone else getting rapture vibes here? I mean, if the Bible is accurate, then it's very possible in time for humans is, I'm gonna guess that's now. It says New Year's Eve, NYE. Um, Making a little joke there. Yeah. Okay. In recent decades has been placed on developers, passing the cost of infrastructure development onto home buyers and increasing the cost of homes. Right, because the developers have to make profits above all else, right? Whereas some of the barriers to developing housing is lengthy and cumbersome planning, zoning and permitting processes, lack of infrastructure, outdated development plans, the high cost of land and building materials, and the need for new and affordable financing sources for both developers and buyers. And whereas the statewide government job vacancy rate is estimated to be about 30%, and nearly every development or agency involved in the housing development process is suffering from chronic underemployment, making it nearly impossible for housing to be built in a timely manner. And whereas the urgency of the housing shortage in Hawaii requires that the state, in addition to developing long range plans, develop solutions that can be implemented in the near future to help ease Hawaii's housing shortage. And whereas a 2019 report by HHFDC identified that the state needs approximately 10,000 new housing units per year to begin addressing the historical housing shortfall, compared to approximately 4,000 new units currently constructed on average per year. And whereas a critical barrier to the speedy development of housing is the lengthy, cumbersome, antiquated regulatory process, which leads to Hawaii having the highest level of regulatory restrictions to development in the United States. And whereas this process amounts to an average review time for housing development applications equivalent to 3 times the national average. Okay, nigh, you meant near. Thank you. Old school. Okay, so that wasn't a typo. I'm not familiar with that. Okay. Um, 3 times the national average. I do want to read that one again. This process amounts to an average review time for housing development applications equivalent to 3 times the national average. So they're trying to speed up that process, which is what this whole thing is doing, combined with the fire, of course. Whereas out of the 15 housing studies commissioned by the state and counties between 91 and 2019, all 15 recommended streamlining the regulatory process. And whereas according to a 2021 National Association of Home Builders report, housing regulations on average across the US add 23.8% to the sales price of any new home, which in Hawaii equates to a conservative estimate of adding $233,000 to the cost of a new home. Adding that, wow. Population in Lahaina was 12,000 a few years ago. It was 9,000 before this disaster on August 8th. I have questions. Um, is Nye is Old English jazz? Yes, like I said, I'm totally unfamiliar with the Old English. Thank you. All right. So adding $233,000 to the cost of a new home. I mean, in my estimation, that is about the cost of a new home, averaging in my estimation. Um, I know it's not the national average, but 233,000. You could buy a house for that price in many areas, not all, of course. There's some areas where you can't touch anything for less than like half a million or even a million. San Francisco, for instance. I'm sure Truckee. Right. But adding that much. Okay. Adding almost $250,000 to the cost of a new home. Let's put it in those terms. Whereas streamlining and supporting the regulatory systems through the provision of additional dedicated review staff and alternative processes, among other changes, is necessary to reduce the cost and timeline associated with providing new quality housing for residents of the state. And whereas, I hope this isn't getting too boring, you guys, because this is extremely valuable in my humble opinion. Um, a dedicated working group is required to oversee and monitor progress of housing projects currently in and coming into the pipeline, potentially delivering upwards of 40,000 housing units. And whereas the need for an immediate and profound solution, you guys, like those words are making my brain hurt. Whereas the need for an immediate and profound solution to Hawaii's housing shortage necessitates the advancement of housing projects in a way that will ensure production of housing units immediately and going forward, and whereas urgent action is needed to combat the ongoing decline in our population, adverse health outcomes for residents of unaffordable homes and increasing strain on household finances, which jeopardizes the social and economic fabric of the state. And whereas the current threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the state of Hawaii caused by the lack of affordable housing constitutes an emergency under Section 127A 14 HRS and warrants preemptive and protective actions. And now, therefore, I, Josh Green, MD, Governor of the State of Hawaii, hereby determine and proclaim that an emergency or disaster contemplated by Section 127A 14 HRS has occurred in the state of Hawaii, and in order to promote and protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the people of the state of Hawaii, and to prepare for and maintain the flexibility to take proactive, preventative, and mitigative measures to minimize the adverse impact that the present emergency may cause on the state, and to promote the speedy and safe construction of housing and infrastructure, which will minimize the adverse impact that the present emergency may cause on the state, and to work cooperatively and in conjunction with federal and county agencies. I hereby invoke the following measures under Hawaii revised statutes. So let's see how long these measures are, because I definitely want to touch on what they are basically. And it's not too bad. Maybe I'll read through most of that. And I'm getting sick of reading this. I'm sure you guys are probably sick of hearing it, but hopefully, like I said, it's not too boring because I think it's super important. Um, Greed is the problem. Solve that, then we're good. Right. And for the greedy, there's never enough. Too much of everything is just enough. That's not greed. That's just hedonism. That's Grateful Dead lyrics. I Need a Miracle. You guys know the song, right? Let's see. Hello, Xena Jazz Lady Justice. Hello, hello. Put that tax money into fixing this emergency and we will be all set. It's simple. Um, Lahaina was 13,000 population in 2022. Oddly, the census was updated just a month prior to the fire to 9K. I'm done believing in coincidences. And see, that's my estimation, is that those 4,000 people lived in the country right outside of Lahaina town, and that those were people that were burned out and not going to be named, not going to be accounted for, not going to be recorded. The fact that they are continuing to keep the number of the deceased at 115 on the record, right, you guys? I haven't checked it in the last 24 hours, but they've kept it there for many, many days straight through. And in those many days straight through, apparently there's people's remains washing up not only on the shore of Maui, but on the shores of the surrounding islands. And I just can't imagine tourists finding these, anybody finding these deceased individuals. How horrifying. But I know that locals were very upset about snorkeling excursions happening like immediately following the tragedy. And I'm wondering if those snorkeling excursions weren't something disguised as snorkeling excursions. You know me, I'm super suspicious of pretty much everything. Um, there's still 2,000 missing kids from the school, and that should not be hard to track. That should not be hard to keep an accurate count of that. It's downright horrifying. What is going on here? Like, dare we ask? Evidence removal. Yeah, yeah. Um, so where was I? minimize the adverse impact. Okay, I remember covering that. So here we are under where Josh Green states that he, therefore, as the governor, is doing these things. One, state lead housing officer. Pursuant to these sections, in order to provide the emergency relief consistent with the intent of this proclamation, I hereby direct the appointment of a state lead housing officer who shall take appropriate action to support and carry out the intent and purposes of this proclamation. Without limiting the generality of the foregoing, the state lead housing officer shall coordinate with and convene stakeholders, including but not limited to applicable state and housing agencies, legislators, nonprofit and for-profit developers, nonprofit housing advocates, the labor and trade industries, and community members, boards, and commissions in order to accelerate permitting processes, eliminate duplication, explore innovative approaches to increase the development of housing, including affordable housing, while maintaining development of affordable housing. Coordinate priority housing projects, regularly review applicable accountability, encourage housing development, encourage transit-oriented development, TOD, among other things. So right here, you guys, I'm concerned what is qualifying as affordable housing. That's all relative. Affordable to who? Affordable to the wealthy? Affordable to the ultra wealthy? Affordable to natives? Like, affordable to the poverty stricken? Come on, what are they talking about? Um, right, disguised as snorkeling. We're thinking along the same wavelengths. They need to make a tax median like they do in Canada. And no one should be excluded from paying taxes, or none of us should be paying taxes to a corporation known as the Fed. Sending love and light. I'm driving, so hello, green light. Yes. Thanks, J. Rana Boomer, for saying hi. And yeah, always drive safe for sure. All right. So, um, yeah. 2, approved housing projects, state and county affordable housing projects, and private sector mixed use, mixed income projects intended to provide desperately needing housing units have experienced ongoing delays related to planning, permitting, infrastructure, and financing. These delays directly contribute to the shortage and increased cost of housing in Hawaii. What is needed is a process to promote the expedient development of housing. Housing, for purposes of this proclamation, shall be defined as the development of a new owner-occupied residential units. Shall be defined as the development of new owner-occupied residential units offered for sale or rental to Hawaii residents. The development of new residential units shall include multi-unit development or redevelopment projects that replace existing residential units or creates additional residential units. 2, state or county housing projects. 3, infrastructure that will primarily provide services to housing. Or 4, brownfield sites that are developed primarily to provide housing. State or county housing projects are further defined as housing projects that 1, utilize state or county land, 2, involve state or county funds, 3, utilize state or county financing, or 4, utilize state or county exemptions or waivers from fees, taxes, zoning, or other restrictions. I know this stuff is super dry, you guys, so thanks for bearing with me. Off topic, but is the tapestry behind you jellyfish, angel, or DNA strand, Miss Jazz? I would say yes. It's actually jellyfish, but you can only see part of it. So I can show you more of it when we're done so I don't get distracted. And yeah, it I think looks like outer space too, but yeah, it's jellyfish. It definitely could be angels and DNA strands. No, you're fine, Shan. I appreciate you asking because, yeah, it's one of my new acquisitions and I love it. And it's it was very unplanned and just unexpected for me to be decorating with jellyfish. Quite cool. Okay, let's see. Um, where were we? Build Beyond Barriers Working Group. To accomplish the expedient development of housing, the lead housing officer will assemble and chair the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group that will steward housing projects through the development process. The Build Beyond Barriers Working Group will work to facilitate the review and development of housing projects through a coordinated stakeholder effort. Stakeholder, you guys, that word always concerns me. Those are the people, the investors. Those are the investors. A coordinated stakeholder effort, and that could be people like, the one with the talk show that was coming up with the People's Fund. That would be a stakeholder right there. Coordinated stakeholder effort and engage entities with key roles in project permitting and site development to increase transparency, coordination, collaboration, and urgency to timely facilitate, coordinate, and align project development and reviews to help prevent further delay of critical projects. Smart town, right? At the rate they're burning everything down, they need to stop lying to people with this Build Back Better and just call it what it is. They're doing burning back better for the elites. Yikes. Absolutely true, in my humble opinion. The working group will not be a policy-making body and will not pursue statutory or administrative rule changes. The Build Beyond Barriers Working Group will have three main functions. Yikes. Yeah. Um, so I wanted to not forget my focus on the people in charge. And primarily, I'm focused right now on that police chief who gave those orders to basically corral people into the fire zone. That needs to be investigated, in my opinion. And when people in positions like that are under investigation, they're put on a paid administrative leave. Him being in that position of power to me is extremely frightening, absolutely detrimental to public safety, potentially, in my opinion. Um, and I wanted to recite this quote, which was from something else entirely different, but I think that he has a perverse view of victimhood and martyrdom when he talks about his days of recovering or cleaning or dealing with the real victims. He makes himself the freaking victim and martyr. And that to me is so disgusting. Like I said a few days ago, step aside. There are plenty of people who are qualified for that position who wouldn't dare dream of doing that. You're getting paid to the tune of almost $250,000 a year to protect and serve the public. So do your effing job. And yes, rant over for the moment. It's so disgusting. I cannot stand these macho dudes that want to be so macho and then want to play the victim. Like, get a life, get a backbone, get a brain. Come on. You macho or are you the victim? Give me a freaking break. Okay. Build Beyond Barriers Working Group will have three main functions: inventory, track, and coordinate the progress of projects approved by and project applications to the state and counties under HRS Chapter 201H, non 201H projects with affordable housing units via inclusionary zoning, county affordable housing projects, infrastructure projects related to housing development, and brownfields sites that are developed primarily to provide housing. Mama Smurf says, so is it true California makes you pay taxes there even after you move? I've never heard that, Mama Smurf. That's insane. Um, Never have heard that. That's wild. I will highlight that in case anyone knows anything about it and wants to address it. Okay. Review, and this is two. This is of the three main functions. That was the first one. This is the second one. Review, certify, prioritize, inventory, track, and coordinate the progress of projects under the governor's emergency proclamation for housing. And then three, review and track all other housing projects to assess the workload of housing regulatory agencies. The Build Beyond Barriers Working Group will be chaired by the lead housing officer. The Build Beyond Barriers Working Group will be established pursuant to the attached governor's emergency rules. Housing projects shall be certified based on applications submitted to the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group, subject to the attached governor's emergency rules. The Build Beyond Barriers Working Group certified projects may be used for the construction of infrastructure projects such as roads, wells, sewer, and other utility installations that will serve housing projects. Certified projects may also include brownfield sites that are developed primarily to provide housing. These projects may serve or contain elements other than housing. Any housing project certified under this proclamation will be required to pay all mechanics and laborers employed on the project minimum prevailing wages for the corresponding work classifications. Minimum prevailing wages. Required to pay. Not required to pay at least, required to pay minimum prevailing wages. Wow. For the corresponding work classifications as determined by the Director of Labor and Industrial Relations. So that makes them exempt from having to give anyone a raise, right? Because they're required to pay all mechanics and laborers employed on the project minimum prevailing wages. Yikes. Major red flags right there. That's like slave labor, indentured servitude. Yep. Sounds like stealing land beyond barriers, like crossing property lines. Interesting, sneaky shite. Yeah, I agree. Beyond barriers, exactly. Like blow those barriers up and then put up new barriers, right? And don't allow any drones in to check out what's going on. Like they are probably building rapidly back there, you guys. They're probably bulldozing and building rapidly, and that's why they don't want anyone to see nothing. Just taking a wild guess. I'm so sickened by this. And I'm also very I don't want to talk about it too much because it's Eric West's business, literally his professional business and his personal business. But in his last video of Hawaii real estate, if you guys have seen it, he's kind of shutting down what he's been doing. And he needs to do what he needs to do, and we can thank him for all that he's done. But it is disheartening to me, to say the least. But let's get back to this so we can get to a good stopping place. Is this too much, you guys? Should I try to stop in a moment here? Because we're already at an hour. Holy moly. I probably need to stop because my throat. Let's see. Let's try to get to a good stopping place, unless you want me to keep going until I can't talk anymore, which I will if you guys can handle it. I'll do what I can. I just don't want to be boring everybody to death. I just know, like I said, I know myself that I wouldn't be reading this document on my own. So I'm reading it out loud for other folks who wouldn't be reading it on their own either. Sometimes it's easier just to listen to somebody on YouTube while you're doing your chores or your exercises or whatever it is that you're doing. Um, let's see, where were we? Oh, um, did I read this part? Yeah, okay. I'm so stuck on that prevailing minimum prevailing wages. Subject to the project labor agreement in place for the duration of the project until it's completed. And that's where I had interjected about indentured servitude. And that seems exactly what this is, like slave labor, you guys. And, if you can't find other work on the islands, then what are you going to do? You can either make some money or no money. What's your pick? Pick your poison. So determination of project eligibility. The housing projects will be selected based on a combination of factors, including but not limited to location, total number of units, medium income level for all affordable units. Again, define affordable. Projected construction commencement date, status of entitlements, and financing status. I'm just my brain is just like spinning with the thought of what they're doing behind those fences in Lahaina town, in the country outside of Lahaina town. Um, what's going on that they don't want any people to see with drones or anything else? No cameras. I'll just add, I hope that Eric West will continue on the path that he's been, because he's been doing some great work and it's very meaningful. And I know that he says he's been getting threatened and getting death threats, but backing off, in my opinion, doesn't make it any safer. Like, to know that those things are happening is good information. Like that's kind of where that book, The Gift of Fear, is coming from. Is like, be grateful that they're telling you exactly what's going on. Be grateful that you're being given that information so you know what's what, and then you can make your decisions accordingly. And of course, you have to prioritize your personal safety and your family's safety. But are you any safer if they tell you and threaten you? They tell you to shut the F up, and then you do. Does that really make you any safer than if you don't? In my opinion, it doesn't. So that's just my opinion. We all have to decide for ourselves what works for each of us. Um, oh, let's see. The Rubicons, yes. The nasty 18-hour headache passed after I properly hydrated. Oh, that is so cool. I am so happy to hear that. It's so easy to get dehydrated and not realize it. I mean, it happens to me all the time, believe it or not. That's why I'm constantly reminding you guys, because really I'm just trying to remind me of your water. Um, it is so important. Thank you for reading this for us. I'm doing war paint for the day. Awesome. Yes, you're very welcome. I'm happy to read this to you. You talk, I will listen. Hate reading. Forewarned is forearmed. Thank you. Well, yeah, I will, like I said, I'm happy to keep going for as long as I can. As long as my voice works, as long as my brain works. Let's see, where are we at? Um, The housing projects will be selected based on a combination of factors, including but not limited to location, total number of units, median income level for all affordable units. That is what always hangs me up, is define affordable. Projected construction commencement date, status of entitlement, and financial status. So here we are at project agreements. If the Build Beyond Barriers working group finds that, one, the developer has the necessary skill and experience to develop and manage a project of the intended size and scope, two, the developer has the necessary resources, including financial resources, to construct and operate the project, and three, the project is likely to result in the commencement of construction of additional new residential units within 36 months from the execution. I don't like that word. Execution of the development agreement and Beyond Barriers Working Group may accept the project under the proclamation. Under acceptance, the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group shall enter into a development agreement with the developer to set forth the terms of the certification of the project under this proclamation and the accompanying rules. The development agreement will be recorded as a deed restriction or as a restriction on the leasehold interest of the property. Once the development agreement is executed and filed, a project is certified under the proclamation. An annual review by the governor's office of the lead housing officer of every project is required to verify compliance with the conditions under the development agreement. Man, this just sounds so government heavy to me. It sounds like so much government control of the people. Like, where's the freedom of the people? The lead housing officer may also determine that certain state or county projects may proceed under this proclamation without first being certified by the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group. So they can do whatever they want without checking with anybody, in other words. Fancy way of saying it. Path forward. Pursuant to sections 127A, 12B, 1 and 4 HRS, I call on the state and the county agencies to cooperate and to forge paths forward to address the affordable housing crisis. The state and the counties should be engaging in discussions regarding mutual aid agreements and what assistance can be provided to speed up the processes that impede the creation of housing across the state. Pursuant to sections 127A, 12B, 4, 9, 11, 16, and 19 HRS, I direct all state agencies to make the review, planning, approval, and processing of permits related to housing a priority. You're not going to like this next header. Suspension of laws. Not joking. Can you see that? Suspension of laws, you guys. Here we go. Section 127A 13(3) HRS, additional powers in an emergency period. To the extent necessary to expedite the construction, repair, renovation, and occupancy of housing and infrastructure projects certified under this emergency proclamation, I hereby suspend the following statutes and regulations. I just have to interject here, you guys. So they're just like metaphorically and literally bulldozing through and over everything, and nothing can be said or done. And then when it's over, what are you going to do? Like, bitch and moan, undo it? I mean, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Um, oh my goodness. Marshall, eminent domain. There we go. Right. Why didn't they just cry eminent domain to begin with and not burn the place down? My goodness, my head is like hurting. My head is hurting, my heart is hurting, but I'm gonna keep on. Um, I hereby suspend the following statutes and regulations. I could just cry. Chapter 6E HRS, Historic Preservation. Again, I'm gonna show you this. See where it says suspension of laws, and then, oh, it's so hard to see. You can't see it because of the lighting. It's not working. Come on, YouTube. Like, they're blacking me out, aren't they? They're watching my show. Because it worked a second ago. Anyway, this is the bottom of page 7. So you can look at this document. I have it posted in my community post from yesterday. So I took a screenshot of one of the flow charts and posted that screenshot with the link to this entire 25-page document. And here at the bottom of page 7, where it says suspension of laws as the header, I'm going to try to show you that again. Do you see that? Suspension of laws. And then here we go. Historic preservation. To the extent necessary to expedite the provision of certified housing projects subject to the attached governor's emergency rules. Section 26 through 35A for HRS, administrative supervision of boards and commissions. Section 3741 HRS, appropriations to revert to state treasury exceptions. So they can tap into whatever money they want. And that's what it's all about, obviously money, but budgeting, like that's how these entities get what they want, is manipulate the budgeting. So here they get to revert to state treasury exceptions. Section 37 to 74D HRS program execution, except for sections 37 to 74D2 and 37 to 74D3, and any such transfers or changes considered to be authorized, transferred, or changes for purposes of section 34 to 74D1 for legislative reporting requirements. Section 40 to 66 HRS appropriations lapse. Chapter 46 HRS county organization and administration, to the extent necessary to allow for the construction, repair, renovation, and occupancy of housing and infrastructure projects certified under this proclamation, which suspension shall not include the minimum requirements and standards necessary for health and safety. Shall not include? Shall not include the minimum requirements and standards necessary for health and safety. Like, I'm going to freaking throw up. Including applicable floodplain management powers and duties necessary for National Flood Insurance Program participation for projects certified under this proclamation. Notwithstanding this proclamation, counties may establish their own process or rules for ensuring that a certified projects meets building safety standards. Chapter 76 HRS Civil Service Law, to the extent necessary to allow for qualified personnel to be hired that would be directly involved in the construction, development, or redevelopment of housing, the filling of public housing vacancies, the processing of housing vouchers, or the processing of development-related permits, licenses, or approvals pursuant to the attached governor's emergency rules. Chapter 89 HRS, collective bargaining in public employment, to the extent necessary to allow for personnel to be hired that would be directly involved in the construction, development, or redevelopment of housing, the filling of public housing vacancies, the processing of housing vouchers, or the processing of development-related permits, licenses, or approvals. Chapter 89 CHRS, public officers and employees excluded from collective bargaining. Who gets that? This is the way their narrative makes them look like heroes, Sunset. Ugh. Gonna highlight that comment. Right, they're just coming in and swooping in and saving the day. It almost sounds like a plan was getting started, doesn't it? Exactly. A wee bit more than almost. I wonder why we haven't heard from the Facebook guy, Mark Z. Doesn't he live on one of the islands? I think he's got a lot of land right there on Maui, right? There's been a lot said about him on YouTube. Shall not include the bare minimum. He owns 700-acre home on Maui. Yes, and he's got like a wall built around his property that prevents some people from getting to their own property. And if they were to pass the wall to get to their own property, they'd be arrested for trespassing. like make that make sense. So buildings can crumble like the Champlain Towers in Florida. Isn't that what engineers are for? Damn it. Exactly that, Jazz. Make it make sense. Oh my goodness, I need some water. I need a drink, you guys. You know I don't drink, but I need some vodka right now. I'm just kidding. Okay, here we go. Where are we? We were at the point of my head exploding, I think. Um, the people that were exempt from the collective bargaining. Where was that? Uh, okay, here we are. Public officers and employees excluded from collective bargaining. To the extent necessary to allow for personnel to be hired that would be directly involved in the construction, development, or redevelopment of housing and filling of public housing vacancies. The processing of housing vouchers, I'm sorry, I'm rereading this part, or the processing of development related permits, licenses, or approvals. Chapter 92 HRS, Public Agency Meetings and Records, to the extent that any notice requirements or any other provisions of Chapter 92 may delay the expeditious action, decision, or approval of any board or agency. To the extent that any notice requirements or any other provisions may delay the expeditious action, decision, or approval. Huh, interesting. Again, so they can do whatever they want. In section 103-2 HRS, general fund. That's all it says. General fund in bold letters. And then moving right along from general fund. So that just gives them free access to all the cash. Or am I reading into things? Chapter 103 DHRS, Hawaii Public Procurement Code. I do not like the way that sounds. To the extent that the department has determined that it is not practicable or advantageous to procure the services required via traditional procurement methods, and the procurement promotes the construction, repair, renovation, and occupancy of housing. The suspension is for the solicitation process only and is subject to the attached governor's emergency rules. Is your head spinning? My head is spinning and my necklace is not showing. So there, I'm gonna just keep my focus on my necklace and the document here. Section 104-2 I3 HRS, applicability, wages, hours, and other requirements. So now we're moving on from page 8 to page 9. Section 107-24C HRS, authority and duties of the council to the extent necessary to suspend the ability of the State Building Code Council to amend or update the Hawaii State Building Codes to allow for consistency and stability in the construction of housing. Section 201H-36A 5A HRS, exemption from general excise taxes. Holy crap. So they don't have to pay taxes? I'm literally getting sick and literally wanting to cry. Like, I care, you guys. I care about Hawaii. Had I never been there, it would be harder to care as much as I do, even though I haven't been to Maui. Just seeing any of these islands and how magical they are. This is some crazy, crazy crap. This is like way beyond Game of Thrones, in my humble opinion. Um, where are we at? Sounds negligent at the very least, criminal. Yeah. Right, but again, who's gonna do anything? Like, out there in Maui, what are you gonna do? Send, like, Ghostbusters out there to bust it up? There are building codes that must be followed, regulations, laws passed. How can they change it? They can change it because proclamation. Sunset, Salty, Sage, very good question. Answer, proclamation. Period, over. Hey, Terry Baker, I'm gonna need a nap after all this, I know. I'm gonna need some serious therapy. No sleep for the wicked, Shan. Yeah, no rest for the wicked. That's a really good Cage the Elephant song. If you guys don't know it, look it up. Cage the Elephant. No rest for the wicked. This is so fucking criminal what elites get away with and what the government's getting away with. And to me, this is why they hired this guy from Vegas because they knew that he was going to be cool with all this crazy stuff. Um, Evil, exactly. How is this okay? Who approves this? Nobody needs to because they do what they want. Okay. I'm really glad I'm reading this out loud. I'm really glad that you guys are interested. And let's get on with it. Did I read this part? Section 10724C HRS authority of duties of the council to the extent necessary to suspend the ability of the state building code council to amend or update the Hawaii state building codes to allow for consistency and stability in the construction of housing. Yeah, I did read that, but I'm glad I read it again because it didn't sink in. Like I'm on overload. That did not sink in before, and it's sinking in now, and it fucking hurts. Section 201H36A5A HRS. I'm reading this again too. That's the exemption from general excise taxes. That's all it says in bold letters, moving right along. Section 201H38A3 HRS, housing development, exemption from statutes, ordinances, charter provisions, and rules that require approval of the legislative body of the county in which the housing project is situated. Section 205-31A and 205-4A HRS Land Use Commission. To the extent district boundary amendments involving land areas that are greater than 15 acres but less than 100 acres in agricultural, rural, and urban districts are required to be processed by the Land Use Commission. Petitions for changes in direct boundaries of land greater than 15 acres but less than 100 acres in the agricultural, rural, and urban district shall be subject to the attached governor's emergency rules. Who else wants to cry? Um, they're going to need more than their mansions and bunkers to hide from the masses. All in due time, the rich will be eaten alive. Well, and that's from the Bible that, the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Greed ruins everything. Makes sense. I can't even say the rich. I would say the corrupt. Right. They have everything because they stole it. That does not make them rich. That makes them criminals. It is the largest nonprofit fund, I believe, in the world. Dana, what's the largest nonprofit fund in the world? Okay, the attached governor's emergency rules. That's where I left off. Section 206E-5.6 HRS, Hawaii Community Development Authority, and Section 15-218-80, Hawaii Administrative Rules, HAR, to the extent necessary to allow for the timely development of additional residential units. Timely. Um, I'd rather push them in the volcano rather than eat them. Just personal preferences. You have to read my comment above. Oh, I would, Dana, but I'm afraid I will get lost and confused. I'll try. Eat the rich, eat the reach before they turn and eat your children. Oh my goodness. Try that real quick, Dana. Did I skip it? type it again? Can you copy and paste it? Because I don't want to go back too far. It'll mess things up. Um, is it this one that I highlighted? Let's see. Yeah. If you can copy and paste it, that would be much appreciated. I don't want to go back too far because it totally messes up the whole system there. I have no kiddos, but I'll help save the children. Well, yeah, you don't have to have kids to care about kids, that's for sure. Um, I mean, children are the most vulnerable, and the way a society treats their most vulnerable defines the morals and ethics of that society, in my humble opinion. Um, Timely development of additional residential units. Sections 302-1601 to 1612 HRS, school impact fees. Chapter 343 HRS, environmental impact statement. To the extent necessary to expedite the provision of approved housing projects, subject to the attached governor's emergency rules. And no, I'm not rereading the same thing. It's just that it's the same thing as a few lines above. So moving on, section 601 to 1.5, 708 to 817, 708 to 818, 708 to 820, 1C, 708 to 830, point 5, 1D, 708 to 841C and D. HRS, to the extent these sections contain provisions for the suspension, tolling, extension, or granting of relief from deadlines, time schedules, or filing requirements in civil, criminal, or administrative matters before the courts of the state. Man, they are covering everything, and they are bamboozling with all of these sections. Completely unreal. Video that Riz Flex did 13 days ago called Hawaiian Land Grabs. She explains this trust fund the Hawaiian princess left the people. Thank you, Dana. Thank you so much for that. Um, I have no kiddos, but I'll help save the children. I didn't want to fail as a parent, and also I was never preggers, so I can help. Um, man, my son changed his career path to forensics and political science. The classes he has planned for high school and college prep gives me hope. She talks about it at the 12-minute and 17-second mark. Excellent. I will try to find it and put it in my thingamajig, the description. So if you can find it, squirrels, and put the link here, that would be completely awesome. That would be so cool. So where were we with this other than head spinning, heartbreaking? Absolutely disgusting. Criminal. Absolutely criminal. So I'm going to read it right from there. Filing requirements in civil, criminal, or administrative matters before the courts of the state, or to the extent that these sections contain provisions for criminal penalties that are automatically heightened by reasons of any declared disaster or emergency. What does that say, you guys? I'm just going to continue because here I am on page 9 of 25. Section 127A through 25C HRS rules and orders, to the extent the requirement to publish rules adopted pursuant to Chapter 127A HRS in a newspaper of general circulation in the state shall be suspended, inasmuch as the posting of such rules on that applicable state or county government website or by other means of official announcement as provided by this section brings the rule's content to the attention of the general public. So they don't have to print things in the newspaper anymore. They can just put it on their website for whatever period of time they want. They could put it up probably for like a split second and take it down, and they're done. They made it public, right? Is that what this says? Pursuant to Section 127A 25 HRS, I hereby adopt the rules relating to project certification pursuant to the governor's emergency proclamation relating to housing attached hereto. These rules shall have the force and effect of law. State cooperation, Section 127A through 12B HRS. I hereby direct all state agencies and officers to cooperate with and extend services, materials, and facilities as may be required to assist in all efforts to address the objectives of this proclamation. Severability. Let's see. Is it a live or video, Dana? Land grabs is the Elite Ring video. Which one, honey? And I'll drop the link. Is it the Hawaii land grabs one? I think that's what she was referring to, Shan. They're leaving no loopholes. Found it. Awesome, Shan. Rocks, girlfriend. You're the bomb. Okay, here we are on page 10. We're at the top of page 10. Severability. If any provision of this proclamation is rendered or declared illegal for any reason or shall be invalid or unenforceable, such provision shall be modified or deleted in the remainder of this proclamation, and the application of such provision to other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby, but shall be enforced to the greatest extent permitted by applicable law. Enforcement. No provision of this proclamation or any rule or regulation hereunder shall be construed as authorizing any private right of action to enforce any requirement of this proclamation or of any rule of regulation, unless the governor, director of emergency management, or other designee issues an express order to a non-judicial public officer. No provision of this proclamation or any rule or regulation hereunder shall be construed as imposing any ministerial I can barely say that word, ministerial duty upon any non-judicial public officer, and shall not bind the officer to any specific course of action or planning in response to the emergency or interfere with the officer's authority to utilize his or her discretion. I further declare that this proclamation is not intended to create and does not create any rights or benefits, whether substantive or procedural, or enforceable at law or in equity against the state of Hawaii, the counties of this state, or any state or counties, departments, entities, officers, employees, or any person. So they're declaring that this proclamation cannot possibly be violating any laws or rights. Is that what the declaration is? I'm going to reread it. I further declare that this proclamation is not intended to create and does not create any rights or benefits, whether substantive or procedural or enforceable at law or in equity against the state of Hawaii, the counties of the state, or any state or county agencies, departments, entities, officers, employees, or any other person. I further declare that the disaster emergency relief period shall commence immediately and continue through September 15th, 2023, unless terminated or suspended by separate proclamation, whichever shall occur first, done at the state capitol on the 17th day of July 2023. Josh Green, MD, Governor of Hawaii. Done on the 17th day of July. And this emergency relief period is to continue through September 15th of 2023. I'm sure they can make it longer if they feel like it. Why do I even need to ask? 3 weeks before Maui had these disastrous, catastrophic, epic failures and fires and fatalities. Why was this disaster emergency relief period initiated on the 17th of July, you guys, to continue through September 15th, 2023? I don't think I want to look at the rest of this document right now because that right there says it all. Maybe I'll look at it after we're done with this video and then do another video. The maybe one of the next videos I do will be the rest of this effing document. Holy crap, you guys. 3 weeks before this happened, before these people were burned alive, literally burned alive, this disaster emergency relief period was initiated to commence immediately on the 17th day of July 2023 and continue through September 15th, 2023, unless terminated or superseded by separate proclamation, whichever shall occur first. I'm speechless. And you guys know me, I'm never speechless. Come on. Holy effing crap. Dropped the link with the timestamp. You rock. So, wow. So Shan has that link, and I'll put it in the description too. So let's catch up with you guys. Where are we at? We're at just over an hour and a half. Thanks so much for sticking with me, you guys. I couldn't have done this without you, seriously. Let's see. Riz Flex just subbed. We'll watch after. Oh, I was gonna say, if you just sub to my channel, you can't be making comments for 10 days just because of all the trolls that are out there. But I don't like to do that to the people who've been unsubbed that are loyal subscribers and then they resub. So I know that happened to Ara, you guys. So check your subscription to this and other channels that you like. A lot of people are getting shadow banned, and part of the shadow banning is unsubbing you from the channels that you're subbed to. And then they show you in your feed a bunch of information that you could probably care less about, but they're just trying to distract you and get you interested in other stuff so that you'll forget about whatever it is that they're trying to shadow ban. Yeah. Thank you, Shanna. I was trying to look up Bernice and last will and testament that describes everything. Hey, Jazz King, cutting it close. That EP was definitely planned for this fire. I'm convinced. I'm 100% convinced. This is insane. Um, and so freaking obvious. But again, who are you going to call? The U.S. Marshals? I mean, they should be out there in full force arresting all these POSs, in my opinion. Possibly, allegedly, right? I mean, come on. Sounds like a plan. In my opinion, they all planned it ahead of time. Smack my head. Total BS. Was there any other type of disaster that happened before the fire? I think there were other fires, J. Rana Boomer. You've always got the great questions. Thank you. Um, Highlight that one. There were other fires before and after. It's just that the Lahaina fire was the most devastating and had the most victims. Had more victims than any fire in modern American history. There was a fire, like, what was it? Somewhere around 100 years ago in Missouri that killed upwards of 300 people. That is the largest fatality number from a fire in the United States of America on record. And we know It doesn't matter if they say 115. We know that there are a heck of a lot more than 3 or 400 people that perished in this. My eyes are bleary, my head is spinning, my heart is just like jumping out of my chest. Um, but you guys remember the phoenix rises from the ashes, and I'm thinking about these necklaces that I made last week, the other one too that I was wearing, I think yesterday, below this one. Um, and just that super blue moon and kind of the Egyptian pharaoh kind of energy. I feel like the people have a lot of power here, even with this BS proclamation. And being creative and being outspoken and being an artist is how people hold on to their power and empower themselves, in my humble opinion. Musicians, visual artists, poets, you name it, performance artists. And yeah, they all need to be held accountable. Judge, jury, and throw down in prison. Does it specify that it was for that particular disaster, or did it not include a specific disaster that it was covering? Such a good question, Jay Rana. In the part that I read, I don't remember it specifying fire or anything like that. But oh, it's specified for wildfire emergencies. Where, Shan? What part? What? How did I miss that? Was it in the part that I read, or is it in the part that I haven't read yet? And my, I'm just spinning. Um, Smack my head. Hurricane Lee set to be a major hurricane. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett. Yeah, Jimmy Buffett just passed away. What was that? Friday or over the weekend? Thanks, you guys. So yeah, I will just scan the rest of this real quick. So I got to this was approved by Ann E. Lopez, State of Hawaii Attorney General. So that's the bottom of page 10. So I will get to the rest of this, I think, in a separate video. The rules relating to project certification pursuant to the governor's emergency proclamation relating to housing. Um, let's see. Yeah, it just kind of reiterates everything, I think. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to read through this. I think it's really important. This is how they get away with it, is by people not having the wherewithal to pay attention to this stuff. I mean, and think about how many natives in Hawaii might even be, I hate to say it, but, not be able to read, illiterate. I really hate to say that, but I would imagine that there's some. I mean, there's some everywhere, you guys. There's even people who are like functioning illiterate who have jobs where you would never guess that they are functionally illiterate. Um, so yeah, it looks like the rest of this 25 pages. Uh, here's a part. Application of suspended laws, projects in highly sensitive areas, project in moderately sensitive areas. I'm going to just screenshot that so that I don't forget to come back to that in the next video. And that is at the bottom of page 18 of 25. It's a separate document. It's the bottom of page 8 in that separate document. Projects in nominally sensitive areas. If human remains are identified during archaeological monitoring, physical examination of human skeletal remains shall remain in the event that human skeleton remains. You guys, if the qualified professional determines that the remains are likely of Native Hawaiian descent. I'm just reading you the beginning of these sentences. This is my next video. I'll read the whole thing. On effing believable. Maps clearly indicating the location of all identified Native Hawaiian burial sites located at the property. This is at the bottom of page 10 in this document of the page 20 of the 25-page document, you guys. Next page at the top, spatial relationship between Native Hawaiian burial sites and any proposed construction activities drawn to scale. Names of any known lineal or cultural descendants recommended by the department and recognized by the council. Green said it himself in a conference when they enacted it. Good job, Shan. Good job catching that he said wildfire when they enacted it before the wildfire, after the wildfire. There's so much going on. It's so hard to pay attention to everything and not mention the parts that you're paying attention to. Drive you crazy. That's why I'm going to start doing lives that hit on a bunch of topics. So much needs talked about. Yeah, I'm probably not understanding the language. Right, right. If Hawaii has their own native language. They used to, just like Native Americans. Are you paying attention to the Karen Reed case? That's Dana asking Shan, and I am not paying attention to the Karen Reed case. I don't know if that's like the woman who was arrested for child abuse, the YouTube content creator, the parenting YouTube content creator. Is that Karen Reed? I don't know. No, I'm not, Dana. I'll screenshot the name and look into it. Yeah. Turtle Boy is covering it is Massachusetts. Some cops killed another cop and framed his girlfriend for it. Oh, I learned about that recently, Dana. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Thank you for bringing that up. So, Karen Reed, let me write that down before I forget with so much going on. Yeah, I did hear about that. And where did I hear about it? Let's see, where are we at here? I'm at on page 21 of 25. I'm just scanning through it and this part 11B says if the appropriate island burial council fails to render a decision within 60 days of the submittal, the project's proponent's proposed treatment shall be considered approved. The project proponent may implement the plan with HSPD's concurrence. I'm so disgusted. Truth and Transparency is covering it as well. Thanks, Dana. They are not all good guys, but there are some great ones. I know that for a fact. There absolutely are some great ones, but yeah, there are some that completely abuse their power. Think of Drew Peterson, right? This is disgusting. 12. If a disqualified Freudian slip, if a qualified professional determines that the remains are likely not of Native Hawaiian descent or that an ethnicity could not be suggested by reasonable belief, the project proponents shall have 14 days from the date of discovery to provide a proposed burial treatment plan to the LHO and SHPD. SHPD shall make a determination as to the disposition of the remains within 7 days. If within 7 days SHPD fails to render a decision thereon, the treatment plan shall be considered approved and the project proponent may implement the plan as proposed. This is absolutely sickening, you guys. Like, understatement of the freaking century. This is so barbaric and so far above and beyond, like I said, even something as bad as Game of Thrones. Um, Such a shame that a lot of the cops have quit, leaving behind the corrupt cops. Well, a lot of the corrupt ones have quit too. I know that for a fact. So, but yeah, it's like every profession right now. It's hard to retain and hard to attract good employees. I don't even understand how this is illegal for them to do these people or to all of us. I know. That job attracts a certain type of personality type besides the ones that are in it for the right reasons, but they're not paid enough. Neither are teachers, in my opinion. I agree. Sunset Salty Sage, you are sage. Um, yeah, I'm glad I'm scanning through this. Like I said, I will pick up with the second half of this probably in my next video. Might not be till tomorrow morning. So disgusting. I'm just gonna scan through the rest of this. I'm at page 23. Um, Unbelievable, talking about hiring people to enact this crap. Yeah, they're just allowing themselves to suspend basically all rules, regulations, and laws. Um, they are allowing themselves to bulldoze through all boundaries without any supervision or oversight. I mean, usually there's a lot of checks and balances in government. Um, wow. All right, you guys, I'm going to read a few of your comments and then wrap up because we are getting close to the 2 hour mark, which is fine. I thought this one might go long. I really didn't know when I started. I tried to like pre-read it, but it was too long and I just thought I'll just go as long as I can. Um, let's see. If the corrupt cops would stop abusing the money, there would be enough to pay the cops properly. Good point, Miss Dana. 100% agree. It's almost like they knew to write this up for the upcoming mass do unaliving that would almost vaporize remains or destroy them enough they'd be looked past. I 100% agree, Shan. It's actually, I only disagree with where you said almost like they knew, in my opinion, they knew. Again, greed ruins everything. A sheriff from Indiana was recently arrested and being sued by a citizen. They confiscated 100 fancy vehicles and multiple houses from the sheriff. Agreed, squirrels on fire. So you guys know that I sued the King County Superior Court um, when I worked there. So that was around the year 2000. And I had said something about it recently where I said, all you need to do is have, at the time, I think it was like $1,200 that I had to pay cash on the barrelhead to get a lawyer to file the lawsuit. But first thing you got to do is you got to find a lawyer who's not afraid of stepping on toes of people in positions of power. There are attorneys that make their living doing exactly that. However, then you have to find an attorney who doesn't have a conflict of interest, who doesn't know these people in their professional life or their private life, or their kids don't know each other, their families don't know each other. And that can be close to impossible. So, yeah, all you need to do in order to file a lawsuit is have enough money to hire an attorney to file the paperwork. And that's relatively not that expensive just to file it. It's the following up that's the hours and hours of labor at the tune of hundreds of dollars per hour that adds up really fast. So yeah, you have to have money in order to protect your rights. Absolutely. We all know that. Um, let's see. I have to say almost and allegedly, so we keep our channels these days. Exactly. Exactly. And, you're probably being shadow banned, like Upchurch is being shadow banned. I'm being shadow banned. Crime Stories Obsessed is being shadow banned. Uh, Crime Circus is being shadow banned. A lot of channels are making videos and putting up posts about being shadow banned, you guys. Um, Dang, wow. Did you win? I did win, J. Rana Boomer. It took 4 years and it was settled out of court, and I was awarded, um, the lawyer took half. They said they were taking like 35%, I think, but then they end up nickeling and diming you to death until it's like half. It wasn't about the money. It never is. It's about justice. And when I pursued the endeavor of filing a lawsuit, I really didn't want to. I felt like I had to, not for myself, but for all of the people that are underrepresented and undereducated and underfinanced. I felt like I was requiring myself to stand up for everybody. So that's what I did, and I'm glad that I did it. And I kicked their MF butts, and I can tell you more about it another point in time. I feel like we need to wrap up at the moment. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I'm going to show my little thumbs up button again. Please like the video. Where's the share, subscribe, ring your notification bell? It might be really important to share this one, even though it's all boring and it's just me reading the proclamation or half of it. I would ask you, like Eric West asked in his last video, share it with 5 people privately. If you want to put it on a public platform like a Facebook page, I'm fine with that too. Um, a lot of people have heard about the proclamation, but don't know much about it other than that there was a proclamation made. So I think it's imperative. I think that it is the basis of all of this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you kindly. Upchurch has officially retired his name. He'll be coming back as a new brand, but he's going ghost until then. Guy Suing Indiana has a channel called For Public Safety. He's doing a lot of investigations into the area because of a false SWAT attack. He was beat up and his girlfriend's back was broken. Wow, that's wild. What part of Indiana, Dana? I find Are You Quite Entertaining Hope. He isn't gone too long. Yeah, Upchurch, definitely. Same Sage. Upchurch is reinventing himself. Have a beautiful day. And yes, absolutely, you guys. So much love, many blessings. And Pixie, I will check for your email as soon as I close this live out, and then I'll shoot you an email back just to let you know that I got it. Um, it's nap time. I've been up since 3 a.m. Ouch. Yes, take your nap, Shan. I'm not sure what part of Indiana is saying it's close to the border because he's in 2 states. Is that like Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky? Lawyer fees. My sister hired a lawyer in Seattle, $600 an hour to set up trust. So me and my brothers wouldn't get much. Our attorney was $400 an hour about 10 years ago. Yeah, so this was like 22 years ago. And I want to say it was $275 an hour. It's unbelievable, that type of money. Um, Hugs to everyone. Have a fantastic one, everybody. Okay, peace out. Have a wonderful day. Get your exercise, get your rest, your relaxation. Stay hydrated, eat your protein, eat your fruits and veggies. Um, What else? Just take care of yourself, be kind, demand kindness from those around you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and supporting me in reading this awful document. Um, Kentucky is on the other side. Yeah, Kentucky's just south of Ohio. So I forget what's on the other side of Kentucky. What's west of that? Okay, stay vigilant. Yes, stay positive, you guys. I think at moments like this, it can be hard, but it's imperative. We have to stay positive, and it's entirely possible to stay positive even in the face of such horror. I think as long as we're getting our sleep and our nutrition and we're taking care of ourselves emotionally and physically and socially. So make sure you're not isolated. It's really important. That's one of the biggest challenges I see with Maui is the isolation. So, peace out, sending you light, sending you love, and I appreciate you guys more than I can verbalize. Thanks so much. See you on the next one.